Hello, my name is Tinashe and I'm a PhD student in the Department of Mechanical Engineering at the University of Southampton. I'm really sad I couldn't make it to the event today, but I'm very grateful that I can send in this video to detail my experiences with public involvement in a biomechanical engineering context. Today, I'll also talk about why me and the team strongly advocate for co-production in a field that is widely technology driven. As biomechanical engineers, we collaborate with a wide range of different healthcare professionals. Some of you might be in the room right now. Additionally, lived experience perspectives can address the needs and the challenges of the technology being designed for research or intervention purposes. And yet, a public involvement approach to biomechanical engineering is not growing at the same rate as this multidisciplinary approach. The healthcare tools that we might design are largely developed for people living with the condition being treated rather than with them. For this reason, we wanted to see how incorporating the public voice could impact our research and how public involvement, a practice that is commonly embedded in the health science community, could present itself in a biomechanical engineering environment. In these next few slides, I'll provide some background to my PhD project, as well as talk about the existing and future public involvement work within it. In health science, it's important to develop a better understanding of biomechanical parameters to improve clinical assessment and the design of treatment for musculoskeletal conditions such as osteoarthritis. A tool that can help in this case is computational modeling. This is the use of computers to simulate and study complex systems such as those responsible for human movement. It helps us test things without interfering with a patient's treatment, and examples of its use is that it can test new joint replacements before they're trialed in people or for surgical planning. Overall, my PhD project aims to collectively consider the biomechanical, clinical, and human factors associated with hand joint disease to develop human-centered analysis tools for the human hand. To do this, it aims to combine traditional computational modeling methods with public involvement, again, something that is uncommon in comparison to the multidisciplinary approach. Using biomechanical analysis tools, we can investigate the changes in function in response to an intervention. But what if these changes vary between individuals, and are we representing these changes in a real-world context? For example, when simulating implant failure, are we testing for failure during activities of daily living, or are we using maximum forces? And if so, what activities should we be simulating? This project has been running since autumn 2020, and we've managed to incorporate public involvement since the very first year. What it consisted of was 4 virtual sessions with 3 members of the public living with hand osteoarthritis to discuss the major factors associated with the hand joint disease and how we can address them in the PhD project. The images on the slide represents the discussions had during one of the sessions, and what was really fun is that we just threw ideas out there and then created a Jamboard, and one of those factors that we discussed, and a key one, was the idea of joint instability. And for small joints, joint instability is rarely reported as part of biomechanical computational modeling outcomes, once again highlighting the value of involving contributors from the very start, because now that has become a key component of what we are designing the computational models to do. So what this slide represents is that we are now shifting away from the consultation approach that we started with back in 2021 or early 2021, and we've divided all our public involvement work into 4 work packages, with the first representing that early stage work where we had consultations with members of the public living with hand osteoarthritis to outline these major factors. And we are now working towards a collaboration and co-production approach, where our second work package is talking about disseminating some of the work from work package 1 and sort of engaging with more members of the public and potential public contributors. The third stage is about developing a criteria for the tools that will be designed as part of this PhD project. So that includes the computational models, but it also feeds into the 4th work package, which is about designing a hand assessment study to basically quantify what was said in the first work package. So currently we've decided to quantify joint instability. Now you're going to get a little break from me and we'll hear from members of the team. So we'll hear their experience with public involvement and why they think it's important. And we'll start with the perspectives of our two contributors, and then we'll hear the perspective of one of the researchers involved.
Involved with this project because I'm very interested that one of these days there will be a breakthrough treatment for this debilitating disease of hand osteoarthritis. And I'm so excited that I found a research that is going on in Southampton University, and hopefully they will nail it down and get the treatment, proper treatment.
Well, I got involved through States Foundation in the exercise class, and you visited us to talk about arthritis in the community. And I felt there wasn't any information out there on hand osteoarthritis. There's lots of knees, there's lots of hip, etc., but very little on hand osteoarthritis. So I got involved so that I could learn more, and I have learned more. And we've also inputted quite a lot of information as well, which I hope that the researchers have found useful. So that's why I got involved.
So I got involved because I'm working on a project as a researcher that's developing a completely new type of joint replacement for small joints for osteoarthritis. And when you're doing something like this, we have lots of information from the literature and we can talk to clinicians, but we also really need to talk to people, to the people who this is for. And the reason why this is so important is because in order to do this well, you really need to have a sense of empathy. And myself, I'm fortunate enough to not have osteoarthritis at the moment. And what that means is that I don't have an intuitive understanding of what it really means to live with it. And as much as I've read lots of literature and I've talked to clinicians and I've been there in discussions and gone to conferences, there's no substitute for actually talking to people who live with this. And that's really given me a really good understanding, I think a much better understanding than I could have done if I had not talked to these people. And I think that's really important as a researcher to basically get as much information about something as you can.
So before I move on to talk about our experiences with planning and running public involvement activities, I thought I would read an extract from an online blog post written by one of the contributors after working with us earlier on in the project. So it reads, "For me, public involvement is important because you are getting all the information directly, not from books, journals, or other research, but from the patients with OA pain of the hands. Unlike OA in other parts of the body, I didn't know that there were more studies, research, and treatment for OA of the fingers and the hand, in which is more debilitating because our hands are more crucial for us to function and do certain things with." So it's scary to process that it's already been almost 2 years since the PhD began, but what has been helpful about preparing for this talk is reflecting on what advice we can pass down from our experiences. So it's definitely been a learning curve. When we started, we focused on a consultation approach, and we have since eagerly shifted into a co-production approach. So on this slide, I'll just go through the key points of things we've come across or challenges that we've faced. So I'm just going to read through them just in case I forget anything. But the first point is to find time to read available resources and ask people with more experience than you. I think dedicating time at the start to familiarize yourself with existing terminology or existing standards and previous work will not only help you form in what way you want to involve members of the public and what way you want them to have an impact, but also help you understand in what way they can. So the biggest thing I learned at the beginning is that it's okay to make mistakes and it's okay to ask for help. I remember seeking help from a final year PhD student at the time who was working with the public involvement team at the hospital, and I know that advice that she gave me at the start really boosted my confidence and knowledge to then go forward and start doing these public involvement sessions. The next point is planning. This is probably the most important stage in the whole process, because not only does it concern organizing meetings, but it also means writing terms of references to outline the purpose of the activities, settling on how you're actually going to reimburse your contributors, because that's very, very important, and also how best you can communicate the first bits of information to your contributors, because those are going to be the most content heavy. For example, you have to make it clear that they can stop their involvement at any time for any unstated reason. You also, for yourself as a researcher, have to make clear the difference between qualitative research and public involvement activities. From what I've seen, so this is the third point, public involvement in biomechanical engineering is not very common. Therefore, existing public involvement frameworks for this field in particular are not available. However, I've been able to use the standards and guides produced by the NIHR and other bodies. So no matter the field, you can build upon existing work and standards and see how it applies to your own. And who knows, maybe you can create a framework specific to your field. That's what I hope to do. So one thing we hope to improve on, so this is the fourth point, is adding more voices to the mix. We would love to engage more contributors, especially for that third work package I was talking about earlier on, about creating a modeling criteria. And I guess the last, and probably one of the biggest challenges that I faced, and probably one of the most important things about communicating this impact, is evaluation. So the terms of reference help to determine what we hope the impact can be, but discussing it in formal assessment can still be hard to navigate. Again, I think it's about determining the difference between qualitative methods and public involvement activities. It's also important to avoid tokenism and being conscious of confidentiality. So now I'm going to go through the current work we're doing in a co-production context. So first off, we have 2 permanent contributors on the team, and this is how we are continuing to make sure that this is a co-production approach. They are members of the steering group, and we meet quarterly to help identify, prioritize, and oversee the decisions being made throughout the PhD. Our contributors are also project members on our public and community development funded project to sort of disseminate the current work that we're doing, but also more importantly, that earlier on work we did in the public involvement consultations. Lastly, they're going to be involved in a design of a future study which aims to assess joint instability for the quantification of those earlier contributor reported outcomes. So I thought we could use these last couple of slides to talk about our public and community engagement development funded project called the How Would You Handle This project, the power of public involvement in hand-related research. So we are a team of public contributors, engineers, health scientists, and students who aim to develop an interactive website that raises awareness of what it is like to live with hand osteoarthritis from a lived experience perspective. We also aim to communicate to scientists and engineers the importance of working with members of the public to incorporate these lived experience insights into the design process of healthcare technologies. So as well as developing the website, we've run events and seminars to share our work and talk about the value of the lived experience perspective in the engineering research and design process. These seminars have so far been directed towards undergraduate engineering students, but we hope to expand our seminars in the future. So on an earlier slide, we had the following question presented: a co-production approach to biomechanical engineering? And with everything discussed, I just wanted to answer with yes. It is possible, and as well as everything that has been presented today and hearing the stories from contributors and researchers involved, I just wanted to end presenting the 3 conference papers that we co-authored with contributors. So the first being at a hand surgeon and hand therapist conference, the second at the World Congress of Biomechanics, and a workshop that will be co-presented with contributors at the Biomedical Engineering Conference, which will hopefully discuss the scope of integrating lived experience insights into the design and implementation of research. Thank you very much for listening. Again, really sad I couldn't be there, but have a great rest of the event. If you'd like to get in contact with me, my email and my Twitter handle are right there. But if you have a bit of time, please check out the How Would You Handle This Project social media, because we're just starting to get great content out there, and hopefully the website could be up before autumn. Thanks again. Bye.